Welcome to Express Change, a podcast about art and activism.
Hello everyone. This week we're taking a little break from our regular half-hour episodes and we'll throw a little outtake into the mix. Marina and I, your hosts here on Express Change, have found that sometimes the tables get turned. Our guests ask us something. In the regular episodes we tend to edit these bits out. We want to focus on them, not on our own thoughts. But sometimes it does lead to interesting results. Our conversation with Mapumba Cilombo in episode 3 is an example of that. So here are a few minutes from parts of that conversation that ended up on the cutting room floor. We hope you'll enjoy this. There is a German word, I don't know if it translates properly. The German word is freudlos, joyless. My society is often quite lacking in joy. The Germans often envy the French because the French have what they call joie de vivre, you know? And we don't manage to get there oftentimes. We're too earnest. We're not loosening up. And when Germans try to loosen up, it often ends up being embarrassing. It's weird. And when I hear someone who speaks from a cultural background where singing and dancing and music is such a part of it, I'm just curious to know more. I think that's all it is.
Yes. Yeah, so maybe I can just describe it from that experience then. Yeah, so in that space, you find that you there's less to explain about how you're feeling. And you also learn to hear a person's real voice. And you get to have more of an understanding what the person sounds like inside themselves. Mm. So as I said, when I get home, within couple of lines, I know if my mother is in a bad mood or good mood, or we can talk today, or just leave her alone, let her do her thing. Mostly not because the face can help, but just from the voice, because I hear her sing so often, and the choices of songs she sings and the melodies or the way she would sing it, it just becomes another way of communicating. And when people sing together, it is a great way to communicate without having to directly communicate. But you might be dealing with something that's just like a bit low, on a low frequency. I'm actually be super happy, or you just be like, I'm just chilling. I'll just join because that's what we do. And somehow we get to resonate with each other at the level. So in a community like that, the singing does help a lot. Just get people to heal quicker.
What you said about how singing and playing together allows for a different type of access to emotions that you don't have to discuss. Sometimes speaking is not always the best means of communicating. Sometimes speaking destroys stuff. And the fact that you have just access to another angle, another means of communication, I think is incredibly powerful for, as you say, healing. I'm thinking about relationships I have, difficult relationships. If I'm thinking I would be making music with that person when we meet, well, first we'd sing a song. Oh my God, we'd start on a very different wavelength. And we don't, because we're Germans who don't sing. He plays an instrument, I play the guitar. We could make music together, but we're not. We meet and we work on our thing and we don't make music. So I completely get it. And I'm grateful.
Yeah, man, we need to get some Germans to Congo then. The Congo needs to come to Germany. Make it a smaller world. No. Yeah. What's your view with well-being?
Well-being to me is about beauty and harmony in a deep, deep way. And it doesn't necessarily accompany all of the metrics that we like to put on it all the time. The desire to quantify certain aspects of well-being are very valid up to a certain extent. But I think that deep down, like as human spiritual beings, we know the difference by the sight of it. And that's kind of where I think well-being sits, and the feel of well-being that I think the work that I'm doing today is aiming at. And particularly within the economic systems change process, I came to realize throughout my life working at different angles at change, like more through the political lens most of the time and policy, I came to learn about this interconnection and so much of the ugliness and so much of the pain and so much of the suffering that I've witnessed and I've seen around me was rooted in our economic structures, the way that we move around this world and provide for each other and produce. And if that relationship of how we care for each other didn't change, then we'd keep going in circles with solutions that aren't really getting at the root causes. And I think to me that kind of homecoming into the Wellbeing Economy Alliance and finding some of my group and where I feel like I'm in that sync space is really sharing with people that vision that things are desperately wrong and unethical and unjust and unfair, and that the process of changing is a process of questioning and reorganizing and healing and rebuilding our relationships with each other and the planet. And that by changing those activities, the how we do things, we get to well-being and that beautiful, harmonious, melodic world that I so envision.
I come from one of the most industrialized countries in the world. You know, Germany is, and so proud of its industry, and the post-war growth period has really defined almost I could say the soul of this country, you know, an expanding economy where people produce more every year. I sometimes say to people, I think the last two countries that will move away from economic growth in GDP terms are Germany and the United States of America. The United States of America have completely built it into the logic of their existence because of the always better, always more, of the spirit of American optimism has been so wedded to that. And in Germany, it's what gives us reason to be almost. So that's my context. That's where I am. You know, next year it needs to be a bigger paycheck. It needs to be more money, a bigger house, a better car. Living here is hard. It makes it hard to imagine how we could turn away from that and we could turn to a more meaningful way of thinking about what the economy could be. So I find it difficult to find hope often. Marina and her work with We All connects her with people such as yourself. And I mean, I've been blessed to be in conversations with a number of remarkable people now. The fact that these sessions open up my mind and my vision to very different parts of the world, and how people like a musician who lives in South Africa, or a photographer in New York, or an Indian man who walks around Europe for climate awareness, see the world we're in and see what is needed for change. I think it really blows my mind because of the multitude of viewpoints that exist. And to answer your question, the more of these interviews I do, the less I know. And I think that's a good thing. If that makes sense, you know? When you feel like you know too much, then you're a lost cause. When you realize how little you know, there's room for growth and development and so forth. And I feel like every one of these conversations shows me how little I know. And that's, I think, the best thing I can get out of this for my thinking about the well-being economy.
Thank you for listening. Express Change is supported by the Wellbeing Economy Alliance, the leading collaboration of organizations, alliances, movements, and individuals working to transform the economic system. Find out more at weall.org.
Express Change is produced and edited by Martin Oetting in collaboration with Marina Gattás and the team at the Wellbeing Economy Alliance. You can find out more about my work at martinoetting.com. That's Martin, Oetting.com.